Welcome to the Clause YouTube channel.
Together, we strive for a safer, secure, and more stable world.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Clause YouTube channel Strategic Frontlines. Today we have with us Major General Behl, retired, who is a geopolitical analyst, and Brigadier Purohit, retired, who is also a strategic analyst. I welcome both of you to today's podcast.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Today-
Jai Hind, Dr. Roshan.
Thank you so much. Today we'll discuss the geopolitical churning and the contours of the new paradigm which is evolving. As far as I'm concerned, it is mainly characterized firstly by transformation from a post-Cold War unipolarity to a multipolarity. Secondly, the traditional alliances are shifting towards more flexible approaches taken by various nations, and there is temporary partnerships and there is a rise in regional blocs. And we can say this is mainly due to the economical and technological rivalries by two major countries, US and China. Trump and the tariff has been a major economic disruptor on one hand, and there is also a high risk environment which is prevalent, whether it is West Asia, South Asia, or flashpoints in East Asia. And we are also seeing the same thing continuing in Europe because of the Russia-Ukraine war. There is erosion of rule-based order due to their systemic deficiencies. However, through this chaos, one positive thing is there is a rise as far as the global south is concerned, where emerging economies are playing greater role and the global distribution of economic and political weight is shifting. So with this general backdrop, let me first ask question to Major General Behl. We know that the Russia-Ukraine war will be now in its fourth year. We have been seeing that Trump has been very indecisive. He started with a very pro-Putin ally, and now he has given a 50 days ultimatum. So my question to you is, do you feel that there will be any substantial outcome after those 50 days? Because Putin has clearly mentioned his objective. So how is it going to alter the European security architecture and the global alliances in future? And secondly, recently the NATO chief had given a very immature comment regarding India, China, Brazil facing 100% secondary tariffs. Coming from an area where we find that Europe itself continues to take oil from Russia. Classic example is Hungary. So what are your views and your initial remarks?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for having introduced me. Well, as far as Ukraine is concerned, this war, the moment it started, one knew that this is going to disrupt the entire strategic framework in the world. Now, of late, we know that as far as the Russians are concerned, they continue to make progress in the war. So there's no letting go as far as the war fighting is concerned. Do all these nations want an end to the war? That is a question that we must ask ourselves. Do the Europeans want an end to the war? Does America sincerely want to finish this war? Does Ukraine also want peace? And is Russia also interested in coming down and having peace and coming to some kind of a solution? Well, nothing seems to be in sight. As far as let's take the US first. As far as US is concerned, it's been dilly-dallying. The war was supposed to have been stopped within 24 hours, and we know it's been a couple of months, so many months now, and the end is not in sight. This 50-day kind of ultimatum which has been given for sanctions. I mean, you're going to have more sanctions. Interestingly, there are about 1,800 plus sanctions, 18,214 sanctions which have been put against the Russians on various fronts by the West. and Russia continues to survive. So how many how many more sanctions does does the world put in to suppress or to hold the Russian fighting this war? I don't think the sanctions are going to have any effect. Giving 50 days window is actually agreeing to the fact, okay, telling Russia do what you want for the next 50 days, we'll talk about it later. It's also in a way trying to tell the world, okay, just let's lay off from Ukraine for a while. The next point that you got to make is the EU interested? The Europeans are not interested in having, coming to a peace agreement between the Russians and the Ukrainians, because definitely they know that this is advantage Russia. Whatever be the game, the advantage continues to remain with Russia. Today or tomorrow, wherever and whenever a ceasefire or a peace deal takes place, it's going to be advantage Russia. So are the Europeans interested? While they may be interested to bring about some semblance of peace because they're getting a lot of hardships back home, but will they do it? I don't think so. They are interested at the moment because the war, the war fighting capability is being enhanced further for the Ukrainians. They are wanting to aid even more. So the Europeans are out. Is the Ukraine interested? Ukraine common men are interested. The public at large is interested. But that too, if you really look at it, they've all migrated. They've all left the country. Most of them who are in the affected zones, they have left the country. And they're not coming back. And if the Ukrainians think they're going to come back, that's not happening. Are the Russians interested in peace? I don't think so. And why should they? They're gaining land and they are continuing to progress. So in the whole thing, whether you give them 50 days, you give them 100 days, this war is going to continue. All aid packages, all sanctions, they're going to have no effect on the war. I think it is the military-industrial complex, whether it is European or whether it is American, which is controlling all this. Is NATO interested? Definitely not. Actually, if you really look at it, had Ukraine not taken place, NATO had lost its relevance.
Yes.
So nobody's interested. It's become an industry. It's a geostrategic, I would say, a game being played in which there are no winners. There are no losers. Everybody is a winner. The losers are the common men of Ukraine who are dying, and the families who have lost their homes. And you look at a very interesting aspect. Zelensky keeps talking about reconstruction of Europe. He's had the 4th dialogue on reconstruction of Europe. What I'm trying to put across is he's not interested in how many men are being dying, are dead. He's interested how much of money is going to pour in. Because when you talk of military aid is in terms of military equipment. He doesn't get it directly. It's only when it comes in other aspects other than military is what the Ukrainians tend to gain, or the Ukrainian government tends to gain, whether it is for personal or for their country. So this war is not going to end so soon. It's going to have no effect, no sanctions. Now the second aspect, a secondary sanctions being imposed on Russia, China, on China, India, and other countries who are associated with Russia as far as trade is concerned. These are mature countries, be it China, be it India, be it Brazil, this BRICS nation, and actually this is a kind of I think they're feeling threatened.
Yes.
From BRICS. And why not? I mean, if you just imagine if Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa get together, 40% of the population.
Absolutely.
And the landmass, 60%, nearly around, half the landmass of the world combined. and India being a leader in the global south, Brazil being a major player as far as the South America is concerned, China in any case itself is a challenge. So it's a veiled threat with no consequences. That's what I would put it at.
Absolutely, you you're quite right in that. Here, I would like to bring in Brigadier Purohit, and General Behl rightly pointed out that are all these players who are there, are they really interested in peace as far as Russia-Ukraine war is concerned? So I would like to ask you first this question: what are your views on that, and what is the long-term implication it is going to create? And secondly, do you feel that US has lost its ability to shape global outcomes unilaterally? Or going by Trump and its tariff game, the US still able to dictate terms and push nations to align themselves in their economic agenda? So, how do you feel the regional groupings are going to navigate through this space between the two broad, loose groupings of US led West and the Russia China grouping? So, both these questions, if you can answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Roshan, for inviting me for this talk. I compliment Claus and your sincere efforts in bringing out vital issues, especially from the defense perspective, and all of us together to understand as to what is the major game going on in the world and where do we as Indians stand in the overall this complexity of war and peace. And you posed number of questions. I'll attempt to answer one by one. Should I lose track, do remind me, please. For all the audience that are watching on YouTube and your close members, it's indeed a privilege to talk on this forum and to convey my viewpoint as an Indian first, and then the world at large. So coming to what General Behl has conveyed, and what is the long-term effect of the war which is going on. One fact has amply been brought out, that who is interested, and we realize that only the stakeholders are interested. Who are the stakeholders? All of us are stakeholders. So who are not interested? All of us who are not directly implicated are not interested. And the world today is no more, say, unipolar or the globalization. You find that globalization has lost relevance. You find that unipolarity has lost relevance. And therefore, when multipolarity and its depth and the permanence is what is vital, we need to understand that it is the national interest that will prevail. Be it Russia, US, Ukraine, India, for that matter, anyone. So when you look at it, 50-day deadline versus the last 3 years of war which is going on, I'm very sure that if somebody knocks at my door and threatens me outright, I will definitely not accept. So is with Russia. Finland and Sweden, who were on the fence sitters towards NATO and were hesitant in joining, are now more than willing. Ukraine is almost more than 20% of the entire Europe, the rice bowl of the world. So the entire pipeline of the natural gas, petroleum, oil, etc., flows through Ukraine and Nordic Stream. So this Nord Stream versus this has impact on all European countries or major European powers with respect to their sustenance. And winters are approaching very soon. So they better be relevant. And if you say 50 days, approximately 2 months, this is mid-July running, and you say September, October onwards, it is going to be winter setting in. So in this context, if something is to be done by anybody, it is next 3 to 4 months at best. And Trump attempting to say, okay, resolve 24 hours is a gone history. It's no more going to come back. 50 days is one more attempt. Attempt to what? Is Trump has already announced aid to Ukraine. NATO is all in full support of Ukraine. So is this 50 days to recoup Ukraine? Is this this 50 days will also be used by Russia to gain strength, refurbish its logistics, equipment, weapons, etc., and be ready to launch another fresh attack before it is winters. And all that we hear is that Donbass and Luhansk are already, again, old story. 21, it was recognized by Russia. Now, the new game of dividing it into two parts and eastern part held by Russia, is that feasible? Can you do it before the winters log in? And if this new offensive is launched, will NATO and America be in a position to counter Russia? So when you look at the long-term implications of what we are saying, 50 days versus this, I look at it from minimum 4 months before the winters set in. Winters will bring the entire tempo down. And therefore, attempt is that he says, okay, primarily Russia and then the secondary supporters of Russia will be targeted with respect to tariffs and other sanctions. Now, that was one part of it. Coming to second part, what you said, the groupings and the navigation in future. Am I right on the second question? Right. So when you look at groupings, you made mention of 2 groupings. I look at 3 groupings. One is America supported, America and NATO supported, primarily the European countries, part of NATO and American support, though there has been a rift between the US and NATO themselves. So if there is a rift between them, how do they get together against Ukraine other than supplying weapons? And the discord is partially visible, despite the UK, Germany and France trying to say that, okay, we will provide more of them. So, well, how much they're able to resolve those differences amongst themselves between NATO and the US and provide aid to Ukraine is a question and a matter of time that we need to see. So this is one grouping that I see very clearly. Second grouping that I observe, what you mentioned, is Russia, China, and Iran. Now this grouping is formally not out, but their collaboration, cooperation is existing. North Korea may join in the bandwagon. You've seen their soldiers in the arena of war. So this is another grouping that I see, which is a very strong grouping. General Behl alluded to it, and he says with the BRICS and all that, it's a very strong power. Will NATO and America, with these two, be able to counter the entire game plan and dominate and say we will defeat Russia? Question mark. The third grouping that I see emerging are the stakeholders who want their country's independence with no alignment. So I call it non-alignment group. It is different from non-alignment agreement, NAM, that we used to hear good old days. But it's a different alignment of the countries who want to be growing independently without getting their own citizens, their own country, their economy affected by the war. Now, what in case this war escalates and there is a nuke? If that strikes, all the stakeholders are likely to be affected. So this non-alignment group is the group of countries who would want peace. And remember, they are also the ones who are saying we will modulate, we will moderate, we will assist in bringing the peace. So this kind of grouping I see. Now, how are they playing their game is what is more important. And the role of India, the way Turkey is doing, can India play a role? Yes.
India. For that, Brigadier Purohit, I'll just come back to that questions. Before, I would just like to get in General Behl. General Behl, Brigadier Purohit rightly pointed out about all the regional alignments which are coming up. So I would like you to comment on that. But before that, I would like to ask you, China has emerged as a major competitor to the US, especially in trade and technology, whether it is semiconductor, AI, 5G network, and quantum, or even EVs. So how do you think that the rivalry is going to pan out? And will there be repercussions for other nations? And secondly, because of China's strength as far as its economy and trade and other things are concerned, it is becoming more and more aggressive. And we can see that kind of a thing in South Asia. Its dominance in South Asia is becoming more and more prominent. So, how India needs to look into that? So, both these questions and the previous questions, what Brigadier Purohit also spoke about the regional alignments, how they are coming and how they will pan out.
Yeah, thank you. Now, as far as the regional alignments are concerned, while there is a group of countries who are looking at peace, and that includes India as well, but are we able to influence is the question. While we may want peace, the issue remains that as India, while we can raise our hand and say that, look, we are in for peace because we are friends with Russia, we are friends with the West, we can moderate. We have made attempts, and I'm sure behind the curtains, certain amount of negotiation does take place, and India plays its crucial part as far as issues are concerned. Now, other than that, who's interested? This, until unless the stakeholders are convinced that they want peace, you can try as much as you may. It is not going to happen. If I'm not ready to go ahead with it, you see, you look at the very premise. Russia says, I want all the four, regions, and I want Crimea with me, and you can do what you want. They are mine. He's already declared they're with their Russian territories. Is that acceptable to the Ukraine? It is not acceptable to Ukraine. And what does Ukraine keep talking about? They must vacate all these areas and go back. What does Russia say? It's just the opposite. So as far as ideology is concerned, there has to be there is a difference. So if peace has to come about, there has to be give and take. And in this case, Ukraine only has to give and Russia only has to take. So that is where it lies. There may be players interested in bringing about peace. Can they influence? I have my doubts. Coming on to the next part. Now, as far as India navigating the United States and China, as far as the US is concerned, let's take the current administration and current, impression that we have about the United States. Things don't seem to be very, very clear there, because the foreign policy is kind of, not stable. I would just put it this way. They really do not know as to what exactly they want. They're looking at it now. It's all become transactional. I think they're confused between foreign policy and business.
Yes.
You see, a business model cannot be applied as far as foreign policy and diplomacy is concerned. So this kind of a dichotomy that is existing between in the United States is very glaring. And believe me, the Chinese would be having a great laugh at it, and so would be the Russians, while we may also do so over a drink and not openly. But as far as the Russians are concerned, as far as the Chinese are concerned, and the Africans are concerned, I think even the Europeans are concerned. So this dichotomy is standing out very clear. Everything cannot be transactional. That's one. Now let's take China. China has, while we keep talking about internal disturbances, internal, discontent which is brewing up and all that, and things are not hunky-dory as far as China is concerned. But outwardly, what is China's impression? China has made inroads, heavy inroads as far as Africa is concerned. China has made heavy inroads as far as even our neighbors are concerned. It is able to influence. It is following an agenda of becoming the number one player in the world. What is America doing? It's locking itself. Right? Are we going to align with China? That's a question. I think we all know it's not going to happen. Right? For a simple reason that we have a border with them. The US doesn't have a border with them. We have a border, and with the border, there are a lot of border disputes which are there. So as far as us closing up to the Chinese is concerned, I'm afraid not happening. Normalizing relations is a different aspect. Are we going to be confrontationist? Are we going to get into a confrontation with China? No. Are we going to get into a increased trade relationship with China? Yes. While we talk Atmanirbharta and we talk about exports, increasing our exports, we also tend to gain from China on various aspects. We may reverse engineer, we may do what we want, but yes, the trade will continue to grow as far as India-China is concerned. India now has to navigate again with the Americans. You cannot antagonize the Americans. You cannot antagonize the Chinese. You cannot antagonize the Russians. And trust me, we belong to the land of Chanakya, and we are very good at it. Our diplomats, our bureaucracy is quite seasoned. Our politicians are very seasoned. Our leadership is exceptionally seasoned. So we do know how to navigate. And while we may be walking a tightrope because of the Ukraine war, because this war has laid to bear the fact that India must choose. And people are asking this question over and over again. Are you with Russia? Are you with America? Or are you with the West? What do we say? We say we are there for peace. Where there is peace. We are not favoring anybody, but we are there for peace. So if you want us to, bring about peace, we are there for you, provided they agree. So this question will continue to remain. India, at the same time, has become the voice of the global South.
Yes. So with that thought, I would like to bring in Brigadier Purohit. Firstly, Brigadier Purohit, I would like to ask you, initially we were talking about these groupings and the US-China rivalry. Now this US-China rivalry is more pronounced in the Indo-Pacific also. We find that Quad, AUKUS, and a lot of regional groupings are coming up. For example, Quad and AUKUS on one side, and the other side there is Russia, China, Iran. They are there. So how is this going to pan out? And what will be India's major, because India, whatever said and done, has a geographical advantage as far as Indo-Pacific, Indian Ocean region especially is concerned. Secondly, our general was talking about global South. Now we know that global South has emerged as a major bloc, and India has been rooting for them in major multilateral engagements. Especially India's G20 presidency marked the turning point for global South. So what should be our top priority for global South? So both these questions, if you can answer.
Right. I'll take on the first. Groupings that are existing today and likely to change, or groupings and regroupings that may come up in future, with the specific reference to US, China, and the conflict in the Indo-Pacific region. See, one thing is very, very clear, that US is struggling for dominance. And having realized that it is no more the most dominant power in the world, it is doing everything possible to usurp the power and attempt to decimate Russia, do whatever best against China, and then control the rest of the world. And we got to remember that America doesn't have infinite set of dollars. It has a great economy, agreed, but all those are finite. And there are ways and means by which America can also be checkmated, which I'm sure the think tanks in America realizes, and adequate signals are out in the open. America is on its way to recession. So if 2027 is the declared year by which it is likely to be in recession, if that be so, the conflict dominance in Indo-Pacific region, what happens to this? We've discussed about growth of China, whether it is military power, the industrial power, technology. They have their footprints in all aspects, rare earth metals and all that. So having seen that, it still wants to retain the control of entire Indo-Pacific and wants no American influence in that area. Primarily the entire energy flow. More than 80% of the Chinese energy flows through the Indian Ocean and Singapore dockyards and this entire Indo-Pacific. So it cannot lose the importance. It can be harmed by others. So in order to maintain that, China will struggle. It will fight and resist any US dominance in that area. The second is, despite Philippines, Indonesia, and other countries either siding, China stroke US are the suffering nations on account of trade, on account of maintenance of peace and their own growth. And therefore, this conflict is likely to continue. Two more countries that come into play are the Japan and South Korea. Japan is an adversary of China, yet has one of the largest trading partners with China. And both cannot antagonize each other. And yet the defense of Japan is being provided by America. Though Japan has recently started upgrading its own defense potential in things like South Korea, similarly, is provided the umbrella by Americans. So these two countries with America are already conducting host of exercises in the Indo-Pacific region. China is attempting to control this entire area. American Air Force, the American fleet has been trying to come into this. Even Australian exercises with some of these countries are prevalent. So this game of power politics is going on in Indo-Pacific, and to my appreciation, it is going to continue. How does it implicate India? Next question. India being at the heartland of the entire Indian Ocean, majority of, we understand that trade, oil, natural gas, all this flows through this area. And again, there are host of European and American warships already existing in Arabian Sea and the Middle East oceanic areas. China is attempting to ensure its safe route or safe corridor through Indian Ocean to the entire mercantile that it flows through it. And therefore, the role of India becomes more important in the garb of prevention or security of their own vessels plying in this area. They should not in any case attempt to dominate and carry out surveillance or intrusion into Indian waters, which Chinese have attempted to do so. So having seen all this, the groupings that you were mentioning, Quad, AUKUS, BRICS, all those are also in play. The Quad and AUKUS, which were primarily the geopolitical groups, have now got fangs and are likely to be armed with the countries being supported or being countries as stakeholders. So their attempt to create force through geopolitics is likely to play its game. And therefore, India needs to maintain a very, very balanced view with respect to its own dominance in Indian Ocean, the flow of its own trade in the arena, and maintaining good strategic ties with the naval powers in the Indian Ocean. Coming on to your second question on global South, adequately brought out that global South is emerging as the major hub. We have seen this in recent past. The economic welfare of the entire world has got hubbed with India being at the center. And if you go slightly East Asia, Japan and China combined together, they actually rule the roost with respect to economy, growth, and the world power. The potential growth that India is growing with is being realized by everyone. We are silent workers. In due course, we will grow to be our own powerhouse. And therefore, despite maintaining very, very fine peace and strategic balance, we would want to grow in our own manner. Now, along with us, we would want the entire South Asia should also grow, and the countries associated must also grow. How would that happen? We've had a free
With
trade
that
agreement.
thought, I'll just get you back on it. I'll just ask General Behl this thing. What do you feel? Brigadier Purohit was talking about Global South. So, what are your views on Global South first? And second is, what do you feel is going to be the biggest geopolitical challenge for India as far as in coming decade or is concerned? Will it be China or the economy or the tech race? Because we have seen that the tech race is evolving and the niche technologies are going to play a very important role. And those countries which have these niche technologies are going to dominate and reshape the global power. So, what, in your views, how India should navigate this?
Firstly, as far as the global south part of it is concerned, we must agree India is a respected nation, right? So we've been recognized. So let's accept it. Now, what has happened in turn is that this very aspect in which we have been recognized by over 120 countries, right, of the global south, is not being viewed very favorably by the West or by China itself, right? So when all this is happening, India continues to grow. India continues to make inroads slowly. India continues to win favors from a lot of nations. A lot of nations, the African nations or the global south, as we say, looking up to us. So what is going to happen is India is going to be viewed, and I'm making a statement which is very, very harsh, is going to be viewed as a disruptor in the entire geostrategic arena by the West, whether it is the EU and the US combined, whether it is NATO or whatever you want to call it, as also by the Chinese. So India is in fact disrupting the entire geostrategic framework. Now, as a disruptor, India has got to be very wary. That is why you find, whatever is happening around us, these are attempts to kind of destabilize, show down India in the eyes of the world. Whatever happened of late, whether it was, terrorist acts, whether it was our retaliation, and the narratives which came about, these are very, very negative aspects of our rise as far as global south is concerned. I'm just putting it very bluntly. So this threat, India will have to continue to live with. India will have to be wary. Now let's take on the as far as the future competition is concerned. Whom do you want to partner with as a businessman? You want to partner with a nation or with a business partner who's clean, who's transparent, who has no ulterior motives, and that is where India comes in. So as far as rare earths are concerned, countries having rare earths, country having critical energy resources, they want to deal with us. Whether it is the Middle East who is wanting to deal with us, whether it's the Africans who want to deal with us, whether it's the Southeast Asian countries who want to deal with us. So India wins favors either way. So maintaining good diplomatic relations have to continue. We are going to be part of Quad. Fine, we are part of Quad. But what next? Are we being viewed very favorably? We all know that of late there is a tendency to say, India out of SCO, out of Quad, out of this. There is a narrative building which is taking place because India is not playing to the tunes of the people, of the nations who want us to pursue a particular path. Either they want us to be either with them or not with them. So economy, as far as economy is concerned, India, we are doing well. We have a lot of economic measures been taking place. We are becoming export oriented. Our defense industry is picking up. So we are going to be a force to reckon with in the future. We are the fourth largest economy. We are edging towards being the third largest economy. And the moment we are recognized as the third largest economy, you will see a whole lot of pressures being built upon India, whether by the West. When I say the West, it's the United States, the leading economic power, and whether it's China, which is number two, vying to be number one. And you have India just slowly edging up and coming about. So this, our policies will have to be framed accordingly, which are actually being framed accordingly, and we have a bright future. But our threats, our external and internal threats, will have to be countered, because there will be many forces trying to stem the rise of India, if I may say so.
Brigadier Purohit, I would also like to ask you this question. What are the geopolitical challenges what you feel India is going to face in the near future? And do you feel that our foreign policy is adequate in navigating this turmoil? Or we need to do more, considering geopolitics is a very dynamic field and there are no permanent friends or enemies, just interests. And this era is more transactional in its approach than the previous ones, probably because of capitalism. But what do you feel are the challenges what India are going to face, and how we are going to navigate through it?
Thank you. Dr. Roshan, is something like saying that who's safe in the ocean, which fish is the biggest and the most safe in the ocean? None. So is with India. So be it South cooperation or South Asia or entire Asia or taking the globe as such, no one is safe and no one is dying. Everyone has its own share of challenges. So do we have. Another important thing that comes up is these days the difference between the security policy, foreign policy, economic policy, diplomacy, that dividing line is fused. So there is a lot of commonality in doing so. Good old days, the foreign policy dealt with only the strategic diplomatic issues, whereas today Mr. Jaishankar goes out and talks about security issues and Pahalgam incident across the globe. So when you look at the challenges, our first challenges lies inwards. Our democracy being the oldest, largest, and all hunky-dory. But remember, the elephant moves very slow. And we need to actually energize the democracy, in our own pitfalls within the democracy needs to be chipped in at the earliest, fastest grown up. Last 2 days, we've had seminar in Southwestern Command here in Jaipur, and I was a participant learning and listening to the bigwigs who had come and said, so technology is a challenge with us, even for geopolitics. The way AI is being taken as, and we used to say that technology is a facilitator in the war. No, technology itself has become a field of war. So we need to garner this. One of the biggest challenges is technology. Tomorrow, just see that tomorrow entire power is corrupted in India. What happens? You and me will not be able to see each other. See what has happened, banking system, partly in Russia. So we need, when you look at the geopolitical challenges, the first one that I feel is within the country. We need to set our house in order. That's the first thing. If you are strong within, nobody from outside can do anything to us, number one. However, we are a living organism and there have to be challenges. And international border is a living organism. No boundary in the world of any country has remained constant forever. Every 1 century, the border changes in a major manner. So is going to happen with India. The Sino-Indian border tensions and Chinese growing assertiveness is going to affect us. It has affected in the past, and China has not let it down. The issue of Dalai Lama and the successor will continue to haunt us till we find a suitable via media. I can't say 100% solution to the situation, but yes, a suitable via media, a balanced move. And therefore, we need to prepare ourselves for border standoffs, infrastructure build up, and great counter to the Chinese encirclement. We really need to go in a big manner around this. The second aspect is that I feel is maintaining our own strategic autonomy. There is US China rivalry. ऐसा नहीं हो कि बड़ों के चक्कर में छोटा पिस जाए. We should not get harmed because of everybody else, and because we want to rise and everyone perceives us as a threat in being, and they would start acting the way General Behl mentioned. So we need to be careful about our strategic balance in all fields. And mind you, it's not the physical challenge of security concerns. It is more of economic, more of energy challenges. What in case our energy lines are blocked? So today the war has gone into number of dimensions. Gone are the days when you would fight on horseback or you fight with a rifle today. It's all right. The man who holds the ground, holds the area is perfectly fine. But we need to be careful of the indirect wars that exist in plethora of fields. You take any field and a threat exists. So that is another thing. Then evolution of all these groupings which are coming up, we need to maintain. It's a challenge again. Who will be with us? Who's against us? We are, of course, we have the minds and brains working towards it, and we really need to keep our beats and diamonds together to ensure that the garland that we make is a fabulous one. And therefore, be it AUKUS, be it Quad, be it BRICS, and any other things like if we are about to sign an FTA agreement with UK. What a fabulous move. So in one stroke, you have obviated one dominating power from the NATO or the European Union. The Americans imposing sanctions by way of 18th sanctions against Russia through Reliance refinery, which has got 49% of Russian company. Mind you, this is the largest, one of the, I think, second largest refinery in the country, which brings in majority of the petroleum products. So these are those indirect actions which may impact us, and we need to be very careful. The next part is neighborhood first. We have a policy of neighborhood first. But despite neighborhood first, we have the neighbors troubling us. So Chanakya said, you need to understand Heen Rajya, Sam Rajya, Balwan Rajya. 3 categories he had specified. And we have these existing in terms of China, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and kind of eruptions that and disruptions that keep taking place. Thanks to Baluchis who are keeping the Pakis occupied. Thanks to the parties within Bangladesh which are keeping Yunus occupied, and a pull of string towards conducting the elections. So these are the pinpricks that will continue to haunt us, the Chinese interference in Nepal. So we really need to be very cautious, and we need to treat them as respected Heen Rajya. Heen Rajya doesn't mean disrespected word. It is just a smaller sovereign state. And this sovereignty must be respected. So I can't call him younger brother, or I can't be called as big brother. No, sorry. They're two brothers with smaller or bigger territory. The respect is equal. And therefore, with that kind of attitude, when we work with these neighbors, we shall be able to maintain neighborhood first policy. And the last point that I like to add is global economic headwinds. We have host of them, and we need to continuously manage all of them. And be it any of these countries, we understand that geopolitics alone without economics will not survive, will not grow us. This will actually slow down our economy, our inflation, and push for, we need to push for supply chain diversification. And once we do all those things, we'll find that these challenges would become opportunities for us, and our own successful integration of this new global supply chains or manufacturing investments in our economic environment, in the economic environment of the neighborhood and the larger one, will definitely help us to maintain our own sovereignty and grow with a very determined mind. Thank you.
I think that's a very positive note, what you have stated just now. But now what we will do is we'll take few questions, because we have discussed a lot of issues and there are a lot of questions which has come up. So we'll just take few questions. Yuvraj, can you flash some questions? Yes. Okay, Shritik Kothari has asked this question. We don't always follow West binary outlook. So POV is more
What do we-
correct. Yeah. Russia bogged down and isolated, European military rejuvenation, or Russia expansion, Western deterrent failure. So, what do you have to say to this?
Yeah, I'll take this on. You see, while we all focus towards the West, we when we look at the West, we talk of the United States, Canada, plus uh, the Europeans. Now, of late, if you see and if you read, the Europeans are kind of wary of the United States, and this started the moment the Ukraine war actually erupted. The Ukraine war brought to fore the very fact that it was a war which is kind of instigated, right? It was not. It has been forced upon. It could have been avoided. Even President Trump has said that it could have been avoided. Now, what I'm trying to come to is the rejuvenation of Europe. It is a rethinking within the European Union which is taking place. Should they continue to be dependent on the United States for security? Should they have their own defense infrastructure? Should they continue to reduce the dependence on America? So this thought has come into the Europeans. Now, if the Europeans are going to unite, at the moment there are a lot of divisive factors and thoughts which are there. There are countries like even I think that Hungary is not in sync with many issues, and other countries as well. So Europe is going to wake up, and the day Europe wakes up, you will have another threat in being, or I would say, a continent, so-called, rising up against whether it is the United States or whether it is the rest of the world. So you got to watch out on that, the rise of Europe, because today Europe has realized if they have to survive, they have to do it alone, because the Americans will always twist them. When they want to give them aid, they will give them aid. When they want to stop aid, they will stop aid. The other aspect we are also ignoring is the Arctic Circle, the Arctic region. The entire game today, actually, if you really look at it, is based on what is happening in the Arctic region, what lies in the Arctic region. With all the climate change that is taking place and the northern route being opened up, China having no access to the Arctic, the only access China has through the Arctic is via Russia or collaborating with Russia. Russia has got about 400 military bases all along the Arctic region. So the dimensions that we're looking at, we're focused much south. If you're looking much north, in the future, things are going to be different. So Russia is going to continue to dominate. America is trying to counter. We forget the Greenland issue. We forgot Greenland. We also forget the fact that Sweden and Finland have been introduced into NATO so that NATO has greater access onto the Arctic. So things are not very simple as they may seem. And Russia is, it's not going to let loose.
No, what you're saying is quite right. If you see Europe also, the NATO has given this thing directions that the defense budgets need to be increased of all the countries, and most of them are increasing 5%. The defense 3%, and that's huge.
No, 5%. It's the Americans who are insisting on 5%. And you tell
But
me
I
which
think the European Union, yes. So
Which-
they all are increasing their defense budget because I think they have also realized too much dependence on America is not very good for them.
correct.
In
So,
I
so
think
things
coming
are,
years,
yeah.
they'll become independent. The second question. What authority does Europe have to dictate terms to us? Whilst our response has been diplomatic, I did surely want to see some retaliation to this. I think he's talking about what NATO chief recently stated. So I think it was a very immature statement, and because on one side the
Immature.
EU is trying to build bridges with us as far as the trade and other things are concerned. On the other side, NATO is giving these kind of statements. So I think that's not correct. So any one of you can take this.
You see, it's a difference between NATO and the EU. Not all EU is NATO.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
We got to realize that.
Yes.
And NATO is an alliance, is an organization fighting for survival.
Yeah.
Right? It is looking for recognition. It is otherwise it was going to fade into history. And if the Ukraine war is lost, which apparently to a great extent has been lost, because quite a bit of territory has already been taken by the Russians, NATO's relevance has, I would say, the respect for NATO has decreased.
Yes.
So it is fighting for relevance. So as far as as far as India is concerned, we are dealing with EU. We are not dealing with NATO.
Yes. And I think we gave a good response also, because rather than getting into verbal discussion, it is better to show through actions.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a better way of doing it. So another one is Mark Rutte's thing. I think riding on Trump's high-handed actions remind me of Chatur and the libertines from Three.
Librarian from Three Idiots.
Yeah. I think this is the same kind of thing.
But what we need to understand, Dr. Roshan, and thank you for this question, is that when we say Europe, we see Europe as one entity.
Yeah.
We don't see that Europe is not one entity. UK is different, NATO is different, rest of the countries are different. Hungary is fighting against them, and the America is sometimes on their side, sometimes on another side. And then there is Ukraine, which is wanting to be included, cannot be included. मतलब छछूंदर सांप के मुंह में न निकल सकता न खा सकता. And this war, which is ongoing for all good and bad reasons that we understand, it has to have some end. कितनी देर लड़ोगे? ये सास बहू की लड़ाई नहीं है जो सारी जिंदगी चलती रहेगी. We have to find diplomatic answer, and answer is only on the table. You cannot get answers on the battlefield. And therefore, if Rutte makes a remark, it will only add fuel to the fire. Mr. Trump only adds fuel to the fire. So we have to be matured leaders at the world stage to understand and then come to terms. जो चीज नहीं हो सकती कभी तो समझ में आनी चाहिए. कितना लड़ लोगे? And therefore, I feel that let the good people of the world get together to get over this challenge, which again is a very difficult task. I understand that.
That's the question what Raidu is asking about. He said, can India play a role in bringing an end to the war by using its closeness to Russia? And do we have any leverage of some kind?
Do we have a leverage? Do we have a leverage with Russia? No.
Yes.
What we have with Russia is a great amount of friendship.
Yes.
Are we able to twist the Russians? I'm sorry, we are not able to twist the Russians. Or we'll never be able to do so. We are dependent on.
And we should not do so.
And we should not do so. And why should we?
Should not
they
so.
have been
Yes.
they have been standing by our side all throughout whenever we when they have been there to help us, right?
Yes.
So this question of leverage, I'm so sorry, there's no leverage. There is friendship, there is bonhomie, there is dependence, right? As far as bringing a war to the end is concerned, can India play a part? India can go to the extent of requesting them that it's not good for peace in the world. And that's about it. Can you force them? No, you can't. Is Ukraine, as I mentioned earlier, the terms and conditions of both sides are so rigid. The flexibility is gone. Is Ukraine going to part with its territory? It doesn't want to part with its territory. Is Russia going to, take back and say that, I give away those four independent, Donbas regions, which I have, the entire Donbas region, which I have, subsumed as far as my country is concerned? Will it do that? I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. So this war is, in the end of it all, result in the division of Ukraine, whether the world likes it or it doesn't like it. Russia will continue to push slowly and slowly, continue to demoralize the forces, because the Russian military industrial base is much superior. The production is 3 times faster as far as, ammunition is concerned, as far as missiles is concerned. So that's not going to happen. So in the end of it all, Ukraine has to be prepared to get divided. Whether it wants to lose more territory or less territory, it is left to them.
And I think at the end of the day, both the nations have to come and sort it out amongst themselves. Other
Absolutely.
nations cannot play a very major role, because both of them, if they come and sit and talk, then only the peace is going to come. This is the last.
And as regards the involvement of India or role of India, you remember when the war started, our Prime Minister said, and we as a nation said, we condemn the war. Russia should not invade. And soon after that, our Prime Minister visited both the countries, because we have had wonderful relations with both the countries. And now if both of them have problems within themselves, they might as well sort out themselves or with their own things. And therefore, till date, we have good relations with them. So I think we should maintain our stance and grow together. It is their own job to sort out their relations and issues.
You see,
And in case they come to us, then of course, then we can assist them.
The Pope tried it.
Yeah.
Right? Then you had the African nations trying it. The African Union also played a part. Then you had the, at least the Saudi Arabia wanted to play a part. So everybody is tried a bit. And if you look at both of those points, I think that the decision is theirs. Got to be theirs.
Okay, so this is the last question. It's a similar one. Which are the zones of Ukraine still of interest to Russia, and how much time will it take them to conquer these remaining zones? Surely there is some limit to Russian interest.
There is the limit to Russian interest is the 4 Donbas, 4 oblasts and Odessa and Crimea. Till such time the entire area is taken over, the Russians are not going to stop, because that is the minimum that they're looking at. If not stopped, this war will linger on, will continue, and the dividing line, in my opinion, and I'm predicting 5-6 years, is going to be the Dnipro River. And I'm also an advocate of a theory in which I feel that Poland will also intervene and walk into Ukraine and occupy the north, the northwestern part of it, which is traditionally claimed by them. So you may even have a resultant trifurcation of Ukraine if the war is not stopped and it is not, partition or is not accepted by Ukraine. The earlier it accepts it, the better it is. The more the more you go, the more you lose.
Can I add just one point before we
please.
close? One is that Ukraine has always been traditionally part of Russia. and
Yeah.
Ukraine means the border area. So it has always been border area of Russia with respect to all other countries, and it has been for centuries. And therefore, for all good reasons, whether Gorbachev and other presidents of erstwhile USSR, if for all their reasons it has been bifurcated, and there is quite a chunk of population which are Russian in origin, and they speak the same language, have the same customs, and there have been those revolts and the presidents in the past who were aided, supported by America. For all those reasons, if they have come, that threatens Russia, and therefore Russia will not permit any of these things to happen in future. So what is it that Russia can take back? It can take back its own people, its own territory, which has been traditionally with them. So what comes to mind is Donetsk complete province, Luhansk complete province. So that takes care of almost 20% of eastern Ukraine, and of course Crimea, which it wants to retain for maintaining the Black Sea domination. So that is what I see. If that is resolved or accepted, which willy-nilly has been accepted, maybe there can be attempts to bring peace in the region.
Thank you so much, Major General Behl and Brigadier Purohit, for a very good discussion. And I would also like to thank my viewers for all the questions which they posed. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Jai Hind.